guys, welcome back to Your Mindset, Your Power. This is part 3 of our relationship series. And today, we're stepping into a very tender space. This episode is not here to scare you. It's not here to judge you. And it's definitely not here to tell you what to do. This episode is here to help put words to something many people feel but struggle to name. Because sometimes love doesn't feel comforting. It feels confusing, heavy, anxious, unsafe. And if that's you right now, I want you to hear this first before anything else, my friend. There's nothing wrong with you. If you love someone deeply but feel smaller around them, if you keep hoping things will change while quietly losing yourself, and maybe you keep telling yourself, it's not that bad. Let me tell you, you're not weak. You're not being dramatic. And you're not alone. This episode is for anyone who loves someone but is hurting in the process. So take a breath with me. You're safe here. And because you're safe here, we can now talk honestly about what it feels like when love starts to hurt, without rushing to labels and without judgment. Because for most people, it doesn't start with obvious red flags. No, it starts quietly. You notice you're walking on eggshells, thinking twice before you speak, replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said something wrong. You feel anxious instead of calm, lonely, even though you are in a relationship. Like you're constantly explaining yourself or apologizing just to keep the peace. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you begin to doubt yourself. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe this is just what relationships are like. So let me say this clearly. Love can include moments of pain, but pain should never, ever become the atmosphere you live in. Disagreements happen. Hard seasons happen. Even conflict can be part of growth. But when fear, anxiety, confusion, or emotional fatigue become your baseline, something is asking for your attention. And this is what makes it so hard. From the outside, everything may look fine. So you minimize, you normalize, and you stay quiet because you still care, because you still hope, because part of you believes things will change. And that's where so many people get stuck. Not because they're weak, but because love and pain have started to blur together. And to understand whether what you are feeling is a normal heart season or something deeper, there is one distinction you absolutely need to understand. The most important distinction. This is one of the most important things you will ever learn about relationships, my friend. You have to separate how you feel about someone from how they make you feel. You can love someone deeply and still feel anxious with them. You can care about someone and still feel unseen, unheard, or unsafe around them. Love is a feeling. Safety is an experience. And healthy relationships don't require you to constantly manage your nervous system just to survive them. Psychology tells us this clearly. When a relationship repeatedly activates fear, hypervigilance, or self-doubt, Your body doesn't read that as love. It reads it as a threat. That doesn't mean you don't love the person. It means your system is trying to protect you. And here's where so many people get stuck. They say, but I love them. But when it's good, it's really good. But they apologize. But they promise it won't happen again. And that's real. That hope is real. But love alone is not the measure of a healthy relationship. How you feel inside the relationship matters. Because love should never require you to disappear in order to survive it. And once you understand this distinction, once we understand why love can feel so strong and still be so painful, we can finally talk about why strong, loving, capable people stay. And why living is so much harder than it looks from the outside. This is the part that carries so much shame. And it shouldn't. Because people don't stay in painful relationships because they're weak. No, they stay because living feels terrifying. When you're inside a relationship that hurts, your mind doesn't work the same way it does from the outside. Psychology explains this clearly. When love and pain are mixed together, the nervous system becomes confused. You bond not just to the person, but to the relief that comes after the pain. There is a cycle that often happens. Things feel tense. Then something happens, an explosion, a betrayal, a moment that hurts deeply. Then comes the apology, the tears, the promises, the calm. And for a moment, everything feels okay again. That relief is powerful. It releases chemicals in the brain that temporarily soothe fear and anxiety. And without realizing it, the relationship becomes less about love and more about survival and hope. Hope that this time it will be different. Hope that if you say it the right way or you love them better, you try harder, things will finally change. And over time, something else happens. Your world gets smaller, my friend, smaller. You stop sharing. You stop reaching out. You stop trusting your own judgment. Being in a toxic relationship can feel like living in a house where lights slowly go out, room by room, without you noticing at first. Until one day, everything feels so dim. And you forget how bright your life used to be. You might even start to feel guilty, not because you did something wrong, but because you spoke up, because you confronted something, because you reacted to being hurt. That's when identity loss begins. You don't recognize yourself anymore. You feel unbalanced, confused, exhausted, alone. And even when part of you dreams of living, another part of you is terrified. And for many people, there is another layer that makes living feel impossible. Children. Staying for the kids is one of the most common reasons people remain in toxic relationships. Not because they don't see the damage, but because they're afraid of causing more. But what many parents don't realize is that children don't need perfect families. They need safe ones. Kids don't learn love from what they say. No, they learn it from what they see. Growing up in an environment filled with fear, tension, or emotional harm teaches children that love means anxiety, silence, and survival. And that impact can last far longer than a separation ever would. And when fear, responsibility, and love collide, these are the questions that begin to echo inside. Where would I go? How would I survive? What if I can't do this alone? This is not weakness, my friend. This is what happens when love, fear, and hope get tangled together. And this is why just leave is never helpful advice. And I want to share something personal with you, not to reopen old wounds, but to offer understanding and hope. I was very young when I entered my first marriage. And from the very beginning, there were red flags, patterns I noticed, and I chose to ignore. Not because I didn't see them, but because I believed I could fix them. I believed love meant helping someone become better. I believed patience and understanding would be enough. And for a while, it seemed like it worked. Some behaviors stopped. Some promises were kept. But what I didn't understand then, and what psychology now explains it clearly, is that unhealed patterns don't disappear. They resurface, often in different forms, often more painfully. Over time, the relationship escalated emotionally and physically. Little by little, my life began to shrink. I felt powerless, worthless, completely unbalanced. I lived in a constant emotional roller coaster. One day, dreaming of living, the next day, terrified of what living would mean. My self-esteem was so low that I honestly did not know how I would survive on my own. So I suffered in silence. I didn't tell my family. I didn't ask for help. I felt isolated and alone, hoping things would magically change, believing every apology, holding on to every promise. And something else happened too. I started feeling guilty. Guilty for confronting him. Guilty for speaking up. Guilty for his reactions. And that guilt kept me stuck even longer. It wasn't until my family found out, until I felt supported, believed, and loved again, that I found the courage to leave. And I still remember that moment so clearly. Moving into my brother's house, then my sister's, and feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Safety. I could breathe again. I could sleep peacefully again. I felt free. I felt safe. Was there trauma to heal? Yes, of course. Was it easy? Nope, not at all. But I was free. And life gave me another chance at love. A healthy love. A stable love. I've now been married for 28 years. Never perfect. No, never linear. Of course not. But safe, respectful, and real. I share this because if you are in a toxic relationship right now, I want you to know this. Feeling trapped doesn't mean you will be trapped forever. No, my friend. And even if you can't see a way out yet, there is one there. Yes. And my story is just one example because not every painful relationship looks the same, but unhealthy patterns often feel very similar. Let's talk about when a relationship becomes unhealthy or toxic. Not every hard relationship is toxic. No, my friend. But some patterns are not meant to be minimized. There is a difference between conflict and control, between accountability and blame, between a bad season and repeated harm. A healthy relationship may have arguments, yes, but it doesn't make you afraid. It doesn't silence you. It doesn't consistently erode your sense of self. Any form of physical violence, intimidation, or emotional abuse is not something to rationalize or tolerate. No, my friend. And here's an important truth. Apologies without change are not repair. They're part of a cycle. Which brings us to something we need to talk about gently but honestly. Boundaries, loyalty, and safety. A relationship cannot be healthy without loyalty, integrity, and safety, both emotional and physical. Cheating is not just about sex, it's about betrayal of trust. It's about breaking the unspoken emotional agreement that says, you're safe with me. That breach is why infidelity cuts so deeply. It shatters security, not just commitment. Some relationships do survive infidelity, but only when there's full honesty, accountability, and real repair, not promises, not minimization, not blame shifting, not rushing forgiveness. No, repair means transparency. It means taking responsibility without excuses. It means rebuilding safety over time, not demanding trust before it's earned again. And this is where boundaries matter also. Boundaries are not ultimatum. They're not punishments. They're clarity. They define what you will or won't accept in order to protect your well-being emotionally, mentally, and physically. And this is essential to understand, my friend. A relationship should never require you to sacrifice your safety, your dignity, or sense of self in order to stay. That's not love. That's survival. And if all of this feels heavy, if it's stirring questions you're not ready to answer yet, let's slow this down. If you feel stuck, if you are listening to this and thinking, this feels familiar, I want to be very clear with you. You don't need to decide anything today, my friend. You don't need to have all the answers, and you don't need to rush. Clarity doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in steps. Sometimes the bravest first step is simply telling someone safe what's really happening. Sometimes it's learning to trust your body again. Sometimes it's allowing yourself to imagine a life where peace is possible. Support changes everything. Isolation keeps people stuck. Connection restores perspective. Let's pause for a moment and let's do a little recap. Love doesn't hurt because you didn't love enough. It hurts when fear replaces safety, when hope replaces honesty, and when silence replaces truth. You can love someone and still need to choose yourself. You can care deeply and still deserve peace. And living, emotionally or physically, is not failure, it's self-respect. And I want to leave you with this, my friend. Love should feel like a place to rest, not a place to survive. Healthy love feels like coming home after a long day, a place where you can finally exhale. Not like holding your breath before walking inside, unsure of what you're about to face. If you are in a relationship that hurts right now, please hear this. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not weak for staying, and you're not broken for feeling afraid. And if one day you choose to leave or choose to reclaim yourself, that choice can open a life you can't even imagine yet. Healing is possible. Healthy love is real. And you deserve a relationship that feels safe, respectful, and honest. If this episode touched something tender inside you, my friend, remember this. You're not alone, even if it feels that way. So many people are suffering quietly, believing they have to handle it by themselves. If this conversation helped you feel seen or gave you even a small sense of clarity or hope, please share it with someone who might need it too. This episode closes part 3 of our relationship series. If you haven't listened to part 1 and 2 yet, that will help you understand how relationships begin, how they grow, and how to recognize when love is healthy or when it's hurting. Thanks so much for being here, my dear friend. Thanks for listening with an open heart. And thank you for choosing honesty, clarity, and self-respect in your own life. Have an amazing week. I love you guys.